Hello, and welcome to another Pay It Forward talk here at Life Coach University. My name is Norma Frahn, and I am a certified life coach and integrative nutrition health coach. And I help women make peace with food and their body, stop dieting, and reconnect with their body so that they can be just free from all of the horrible things that diet culture has brought to our society. It really is an experience of freedom when you can let all of that go. And that is the mission that I'm on in my practice. So before we dive into our Pay It Forward talk today, let's just do a little bit of housekeeping. If you're new to a Pay It Forward talk, um, it just goes like this. Basically, I have a topic that I'm going to go through. And at any time during the session, you can open the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen, type in a question for me, and then at the end, I'll go through all those questions. And the only cost for you to be here today is your promise to pay it forward with some act of kindness. And it can be anything you want. But our mission is to practice the gift of paying it forward whenever we can. So that is why we call these Pay It Forward talks. All right. So today I want to dive into something that is not necessarily specific to my area of expertise around food and body and emotional eating and stop dieting and all those things. But I think it's something that can be applied to almost any area of your life. And that is goals. And more specifically, a really different way to think about setting a goal. So, what's the first thing you do when you decide on some outcome or result that you want to achieve? You set a goal, right? Now, setting a goal probably looks a little bit different for all of us. It could be either really arbitrary, like weight loss, for example. Most of us just kind of pick a number and that's our goal weight. And others might be really very analytical about setting a goal, meaning they do lots of research and they try to really get each and every step narrowed down so there could be no mistakes. That's perfectionism sneaking in. And some of us might just really struggle with the whole idea of setting a goal to begin with. So if you are one of those people and you struggle and goal setting and and is just more challenging and you just maybe you're just avoiding it because you just haven't had a lot of luck achieving your goals. It's likely because you're thinking about goal setting in a way that doesn't quite fit what you're trying to actually accomplish. So you're likely basing your goal again on some big outcome, which is a very logical thing to do. But then you do a lot of thinking about a bunch of smaller outcomes that you need to achieve in order to get to that big goal. And it gets very kind of frantic sometimes and jumbled together, and you kind of lose sight of that big goal while you're kind of caught in the weeds of all these other little things. So I think that's because most of us learned about goal setting in the work environment and maybe even in the academic world as we were going up through school. And we use something called SMART goals. I think most of us have heard of SMART goals. SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. Now, that makes sense in the academic or work environment. Most everybody can agree on what that specific goal is. And you can follow that acronym and make the goal measurable and make it achievable and all of that. Makes perfect sense there. But it doesn't quite work at all that way when we're talking about less tangible goals, like uncomplicating emotional eating or changing your relationship with food in your body, because those types of goals could look very different from one person to the next. And I think we could all agree there's probably no logical way to insert that type of goal into a model like SMART goals. Sorry about that. I need a drink of water. All right. So when we do, though, try to insert those kind of intangible type goals into that SMART goal model, I've kind of renamed the acronym. It's still SMART, but here's what I think what it turns out becoming: soul sucking, miserable, anxiety ridden, completely ridiculous, and incredibly time consuming. So a SMART goal just doesn't work well with these more intangible type things. So you've probably experienced this if you've tried to cram a weight loss goal into that traditional SMART model, right? Now that's because your goal weight, like I mentioned before, is literally a random number, random arbitrary number, and you're measuring it by stepping on the scale, which frankly, you have very little control over what that number is going to say. And then you become obsessed and stressed, and every other aspect of dieting just becomes completely full of anxiety. Enter emotional eating. And the process of weight loss, getting the scale to go down, that thing you're measuring by, becomes kind of this all consuming thing that just takes up every waking moment of your life. Now, nothing about that seems smart to me. So the biggest problem is that it kind of puts all of your focus on that big outcome. And it really doesn't give a whole lot of thought to what's blocking you from achieving that goal, or more importantly, the behaviors necessary to get those, to overcome those obstacles. And like I said before, that's when the actions that you're taking start to get really disconnected. They get a little frantic, they start becoming more random. And before you know it, you either just give up because it just got too hard, or you spend a lot of time and energy and just don't make any progress. So today I want to offer you a different way to think about your goals and goal setting and specifically, and really how to figure out what those daily behaviors actually are using a version of a mind mapping tool to help you kind of map out your goals and clearly link them to the one thing that will actually get you results, and that's behavior. So here's a little bit how this works. And you can think of it as kind of reverse engineering your big outcome goal. So you can do this in a couple of different ways. I just mentioned like a mind mapping tool. This one works really well for me. I like to start with my big outcome goal in like this little bubble on my piece of paper, just one or two words. So that's the first step. What is your big outcome goal? We have to know what you're targeting, what you're shooting for. So what do you want to solve what do you want to solve for? What's the goal? So let's use this example. Maybe I'm going to use one from my world. Maybe you want to become an intuitive eater. So that's your big outcome goal. So you've done the first step. So on your piece of paper, over on the left-hand side, you can draw a bubble and just put the words become an intuitive eater. That's your big outcome goal. So the next step you're going to do is see if you can identify what your current blockers are. What's preventing you right now today from becoming an intuitive eater? Now, you can visually represent this on your little mind map by drawing out some lines or some like spider webs out from the big outcome goal. And then for each one of those lines, just jot down the things that are blocking you or preventing you from becoming an intuitive eater. It could be something like, I really don't understand the principles of intuitive eating. I emotionally eat. That could certainly be a blocker. What else? I don't understand what it means to eat until I'm satisfied, and I don't know how to stop when I've had enough. So those could be your current blockers, the things that are preventing you from being an intuitive eater. So now you've got a little bit of like I said, spider web forming. You've got your outcome goal, and then you've got these little webs shooting off each of them, or shooting off of that outcome goal, identifying each of your current blockers. Now we're going to expand that even further. And this is the most important step. For each one of your blockers that you just identified, you're going to think about what behavior would you have to practice in order to remove just that one blocker. So the first blocker I think we said was you really don't understand the principles of intuitive eating. So what are some behaviors that you would need to practice in order to remove that blocker? So one behavior might be I need to dedicate some time to read the intuitive eating book. I need to dedicate some time just to learn about them. That could be a behavior that will help remove that blocker and get you closer to the big outcome. The other blocker I think we said was I don't know how to eat when I'm hungry and stop when I'm satisfied. So maybe the behavior then would be I need to practice listening to my body. I need to practice what it feels like to be hungry, or I need to listen to my body and practice stopping when I think I've had enough. So do you see how this is working? We're coming up with these very small behaviors that will eliminate the blocker and get you closer to your goal. And I think the last one we said the last blocker was I'm an emotional eater. You know that's blocking you from becoming a more intuitive eater. So what are some behaviors that you could take to remove that blocker? Well, you could practice the pause. Whenever you feel like you need to go eat something, just take a pause and say, what am I really hungry for? Is it food or is some feeling that I'm having? So you just think about the different behavior changes that you can make that will remove the blocker and get you closer. I hope that makes sense. Kind of hard to do without a slideshow and all this to visualize the actual mind map. But if the mind map visual isn't working for you, just draw 2 lines, do vertical lines, and create the sections on a notebook page where you put one column is just your big outcome, the next column's your blockers, and the third column is your behaviors. So I hope this is making sense and you can see kind of how this reverse engineering works, how focusing on those small behaviors is really where all your effort needs to go, because it's behavior change that's going to remove those blockers. And when those blockers are gone, you'll get to your big outcome. It just, in my mind, just makes so much more sense than trying to jam in these kind of intangible goals into that SMART model. It just doesn't work. So, like I said, I hope that makes sense. And now you can just kind of, like I said, just put that big outcome aside. It's not so big, it's not so overwhelming anymore, and just focus on the behaviors. All right, let's see what questions we have. Okay. Oh, this is a good one. How do you differentiate between a big outcome and a behavior-based goal? Okay, so let's see if I can explain this for you. The big outcome is kind of like the top of a mountain that you're trying to climb. Your goal is to get to the top of the mountain and plant your flag. We can use a weight loss example. Maybe it's I want to lose 20 pounds or I want to stop emotionally eating. That's your end game, your big outcome. But behavior-based goals, they're kind of like the parts of that hike up the mountain. It's like your trail map and your water bottle and, good hiking boots. They're all the things that will get you there. Those are all the things that you will be doing to get you to the top of your mountain or to get you to the 20-pound weight loss or to stop emotionally eating. So let's stay with the mountain. So if you're trying to climb that mountain, so maybe your behavior-based goal will be 10,000 steps a day. Or you might say, I'm going to give myself permission to pause and breathe before reaching for that snack in my backpack. Just little tiny behaviors that will start to chip away at those blockers. So they're the daily actions that really just make reaching the summit of the mountain possible. It's like focusing on each step rather than constantly starting at the peak. Okay. All right, this is a fair question. What's wrong with focusing on the big outcome? Well, focusing on the big outcome is like trying to read a book by only looking at the last page. You kind of miss out on the whole journey, all the plot twists and the character development. And to be truthful, it can be really overwhelming when you're just looking at that big outcome goal. You're staring at this like massive mountain and it feels impossible. Or you're staring at maybe it's a big weight loss goal and it seems so far away, you can't even reach it. What happens then? You start to get a little anxious, right? Maybe even a little bit frantic. And that's when things like new blockers kick in, like emotional eating. And so you start shifting your focus and, oh, maybe I should try this diet. And then you ditch what you're doing and run to the next one. Or maybe well, look at that person. Look at their before and after pictures. I wonder what they're doing. And you start hopping around and you take all the focus off of your own behaviors, which are truthfully the only thing that's going to get you to that big outcome. Okay. Oh, these are great questions today. How do I identify my blockers? All right. Like I said before, think of them as roadblocks. And it's a little bit like peeling back an onion. And it might require just a little bit of reflection and thought, but always ask yourself, what's stopping me from achieving the goal? Start there. It could be simple things like stress. Maybe there's a lot of stress in your life. Maybe it could be lack of time. Maybe it could be because every time you feel an emotion like sadness or frustration, you reach for the tub of ice cream. So just identifying those things that are stopping you from achieving that goal is going to be really helpful in figuring out what behaviors need to change. So once you've kind of identified your blockers, now you know what you're up against, you know what your roadblocks are, you can start to dismantle them, and you dismantle them with new behaviors. Let's see. Can you give an example of a behavior-based goal for emotional eating? Yeah, absolutely. Let's say one of your blockers is stress eating. A behavior-based goal could be, when I feel stressed, I'll take 3 deep breaths and drink a glass of water before deciding what to eat. Simple, right? But it's incredibly effective. It's like putting a speed bump on the road to slow you down just a minute because emotional eating happens really fast. But if you can just pause, slow down, it forces you to think and then choose. And that very much is a behavior based goal or a behavior based change. Let's see. What if I fail to stick to my behavior based goals? So think of it this way: failure is just another chapter in your story. It's not the end. If you slip up, it's not a sign to give up. It's an opportunity to learn. And you can always ask yourself questions and be curious about it. What led to this? How can I avoid this next time? And then adjust your behavior based goals accordingly. It's kind of like recalibrating your GPS when you take a wrong turn. Do you know how it says, I call it she, your GPS says rerouting or take a U-turn at the next available place and go back. You're just redirecting and recalibrating all the time. You're still on the journey. You've just taken a little different route, and that's perfectly fine. Let's see. Let's see. How does this approach help with emotional eating specifically? Oh, good one. So, emotional eating, and this is a great one too, because like I said, this is a real intangible and it looks different for everybody. So, what's important to know or remember is that the act of emotional eating is often a symptom, it's not the core issue. So, by focusing on behavior based goals, you're treating the cause, not just the symptom. So, you'll learn to cope with an emotion in a little healthier way, or create a new coping mechanism when you can pause and reflect instead of diving headfirst into a bag of chips. That was always me. It's like it's kind of like fixing a leaky roof instead of just putting empty buckets all over your house to catch the drips. We want to fix the broader issue instead of the symptom. So emotional eating is often a symptom of something else. Something else is going on. You need something other than food. And in the case of stress, I'll speak for myself. I refer to it as relief eating. When I've had a really stressful day, I know that a symptom of a stressful day for me is to go find some food that will make me feel comfortable, usually something sweet or something salty. So that's the symptom. So I want to change my behavior and create a pause and really think about what it is that I need when I'm feeling stressed. Maybe I just need a break and I can walk away for 10 or 15 minutes and give myself that break and make the choice not to eat. And oftentimes that's all it takes. So the behavior changing the behavior can actually eliminate the symptom and get you to work on the core issue. All right. Oh, I get this one a lot too. How long does it take to see results with working on behaviors instead of that big outcome goal? Well, that's a really tough question to answer because it depends on a lot of things, what it is you're actually trying to work on. But what I can say is each day that you stick with your behavior-based goals and give yourself credit for the wins from that day. Show yourself proof that you're doing this, that you're making changes. You're going to get closer and closer to that big outcome, and it will happen faster compared to kind of jamming it into that SMART goal model that now we know is not so smart in all cases. So it's truly not about how long it takes. It's about the transformation that actually happens along the way because you're changing behaviors. Let's see. Oh, I love this question. Can I apply this approach to other areas of my life? You bet. This is just this is not just like a one-trick pony, like I mentioned in the beginning, for things around emotional eating and weight loss and all of that. You could apply this to any part of your life, whether it's improving relationships, advancing your career, your financial goals, or even learning a new skill. These behavior-based goals, you can kind of think of them as like your Swiss Army knife. They're versatile, they're adaptable, and they're incredibly effective because you're actually changing how you are showing up in a particular way. And it permeates through all parts of your life. Let's see. Oh, this is a great question. What if my blockers are external, like a demanding job or family obligations? All right. External blockers can sometimes be, maybe even like unexpected. They may not be even something that you plan for. Maybe something happened, maybe somebody's ill and you need to travel to see them. Maybe there's a million different things could happen that just life happens. Those are like unexpected and you can't always plan for that. Sure, they're inconvenient, but they're not insurmountable. Now, maybe you can change, maybe you can't change things like your job or your family overnight, but you can change how you react to them. Grab a quick drink. Creating behavior-based goals will help you work within those constraints. So, one second. Excuse me. It's a bit like finding an alternative route, like we just talked about on the GPS. It might take you a bit longer to kind of navigate these unexpected blockers, but you're still going to get there. You're just going to change your route a little bit. Now, one thing I will say when it comes to your family or your job situation, again, not going to change them overnight, but your behavior-based goals can be things like practicing boundaries, practicing honoring the boundaries you set for yourself. They could be practicing telling my family what I need. or asking for help when I need it. There's a million different ways that you can change how you think about blockers like that, like your job and your family, by changing how you react to them and changing the things that you actually do, your actions with them. So that's how I would suggest to handle that. All right, let's see. We've got time for one more question. Yeah, this is another real common one. How do I stay committed to my behavior-based goals? Now, commitment's a little bit like stoking a fire. You've got to keep feeding it. Regularly look at those goals and those blockers. And like I mentioned earlier, give your brain some proof that you're making progress. Take some time, even if it's just 2 minutes in the morning, just to jot down some wins. How did yesterday go? What did you actually practice? Now, when I say wins, that doesn't mean you did everything perfectly. There is no perfection of this. A win could be I tried doing X and it didn't work. That's a win because you tried. That's the difference. Those are the types of things that will keep you committed and keep your brain focused on changing the behaviors, and it won't drift off to that big outcome goal and just kook your brain out and get you heading in all these different directions again. Practicing celebrating your wins, no matter if those wins were actually maybe didn't work out so good, that's a win. So keep proving to yourself that you're making progress. So, and then don't underestimate the power of a support system. So whether it's a coach, like coming here and listening to a Pay It Forward talk, or joining in any one of the Let's Coach sessions here on Life Coach University, if it's a friend or just somebody you have in your just kind of your community or network of people, having cheerleaders on your journey can really make all the difference. So that to the degree that you're comfortable, share what you're working on and share what you're trying to change, especially if that person has the ability to help you. Like your family members, tell them what you need. You'd be surprised at how quickly they'll want to help. All right, I think that is everything we have for today. Yes, it is. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening to this Pay It Forward talk. And don't forget, go out in the world today and pay it forward with some act of kindness. And if you're watching on replay and you would like a question answered, please just, you can go to the Life Coach University website, go to coaches, and you'll find my picture there, and just hit the button to connect with me. Ask me any question about this or any other talk that you may have watched, and I will be happy to respond personally. So have a beautiful day, and I will see you next time. Bye.